Well, there she is, my brand new 2021 Kawasaki KLX300. My motorcycling evolution is similar to a lot of guys. I was 17 years old when I bought a used Husqvarna motocross bike. Actually bought two of them, and my brother and I rode around on those for a couple of years. I think in 1989 I bought a brand new Honda CR125. Rode that on trails and motocross tracks for several years. That led me to buying a Honda CB750. I think it was in 1984. That was my first road bike, and rode that for a short time before I felt like it was too slow, of course, and bought my first sport bike, a Ninja ZX6R. I rode sport bikes, including a Suzuki SV650 standard motorcycle, until the early 2000s, when I felt the need to go back to dirt bikes. And Michigan has so many thousands of miles of amazing dirt roads and two tracks and Manistee National Forest roads that are only legal to titled plated vehicles, that I decided to get a dual sport. My first one was actually a Kawasaki KLX300, which was a very odd bike. It was just a rebadged Suzuki DRZ 400E. And it wasn't street legal when I bought it, but here in Michigan it's pretty easy to make them street legal. Rode that for a few years, absolutely loved that bike, and since then I've owned DRZ 400, a DR650, and I've actually owned two Honda CRF 250Ls before I stopped riding a couple of years ago. Took a little bit of a break from riding. I think I would estimate I've ridden about 110 to 120,000 total miles on the street over the years, over the last 30 years, and countless miles off-road. So why, after 30 years of riding, why did I buy a KLX300 versus all the other dual sports that are on the market? Well, I refused to buy another DRZ400 or DR650 because Suzuki stubbornly refuses to update those bikes. They're still carbureted. They still have the exact same styling I've had for decades. I'm just not going to buy another one. I'm done with carburetors now that I've experienced fuel injection on my CRF 250Ls. There's no way for me to ever go back to another carbureted bike, at least not as my main bike. And so that eliminated those. And why didn't I buy another CRF 250L or the new CRF 300L? The main reason is the suspension on those bikes is just not appropriate for my weight. So my experience with my CRF 250Ls was very positive in most ways, with one huge glaring exception, and that is the suspension was set up, it seemed to me, to be for about a 120-pound rider. I'm 6'1", 210 pounds without my gear. I would bottom out the suspension on my CRF 250Ls on a cigarette butt. And as much as I liked the motor on those bikes, the Honda fit and finish, I just could not go back to that soft suspension again. And I didn't want to buy a bike that I had to immediately modify the suspension. I also didn't consider the expensive KTMs or Husqvarnas or the CRF 450. L, I think it is. I can't remember the exact model name for that bike. Those bikes are just way too expensive for me. So I only considered the mid-priced bikes. I looked briefly at the brand new KLX230, but that is a brand new model that's not tried and true, and it's built in an Indonesian factory. That is, I've done some research on that factory and the build quality on those bikes, and the bikes that come out of that factory is kind of sketchy, so I did not consider that bike. This bike and the CRF 300L, the new one, were in the midpoint price range for me, and I mainly chose this one over the Honda because of the suspension. I've ridden this bike about 120 miles, and wow, what a staggering difference. It's really astonishing how much better the suspension is on this than the Honda. Like I said, I'm 6'1", 210 pounds, and this bike is absolutely perfect for my size and weight. It's the perfect compromise between cushy and firm without bottoming out. I'm so happy with it. I think I made an amazing decision. A couple more things I wanted to mention. The more expensive bikes, the Huskies, the KTMs, the 450 Honda Dual Sport, not only are they outrageously expensive, the maintenance is just too frequent and too expensive on those bikes. I want to ride, not wrench. I don't want to be buying a 10, 12 plus $1,000 bike that's got to have the valves adjusted frequently, oil changed frequently, etc. And what about the Yamahas? I got to mention the Yamahas. So Yamaha has dropped the WR 250R, I think it is, for 2021. They're not even going to make it anymore. I looked at and seriously considered the XT 250. I think that's a great bike. It's air cooled, not liquid cooled, and it does have fuel injection. And it looks incredibly comfortable. I've ridden one once, and the suspension was definitely a lot better than the CRF 250Ls that I had. I seriously considered that bike. It's really close to the price of this bike, but I couldn't find one. The pandemic has dual sports sold out all over the United States, and I was not able to find an XT 250 anywhere, even if I had wanted to buy that one over this. And then what about the TW 200, the fat tire, very odd looking Yamaha, which is carbureted and has the old school tack. It's a very interesting bike. I really like it a lot. I'd love to own one someday, even though it is carbureted. But once again, they were out of stock everywhere in Michigan that I checked. So that wasn't an option for me, even if I had wanted one of those with the carburetor. So this is the sweet spot, the KLX. It's got the similar price to the CRF 300L. It's $1,000 cheaper than, for example, leftover 2020 WR250R. It's tried and true. It's been around a long time. Used to be the 250, now it's the 300. Super reliable, fantastic suspension, great price, fuel injected. It's just perfect. Or I should say it's perfect for me. The Yamaha XT250, the Honda CRF 300L. Great bikes. If you're a smaller, lighter person, I think you'd be very, very happy with either one of those. If you're a bigger guy like me, or even bigger than me, the Kawasaki is the only way to go. The suspension is just so much better than those bikes. A lot firmer, a lot more appropriate for bigger North American people like me. We like our food. So what mods have I done so far? Just two simple ones. I put the handguards on. These are only about $28 on Amazon. These are just wind guards. I don't feel like I need the type with the metal frames anymore, because I don't do the kind of riding anymore that's going to result in me wiping out, hopefully. And then I bought this very nice skid plate. I do a ton of gravel road riding out here where I live. This is a T-Rex Racing skid plate. I think it was about $120. I think I also got that on Amazon. That took me about 10 minutes to install, if that. I'm extremely happy with it. Those are the only mods I've done so far. I don't think I'll do a fender eliminator kit, but I'll definitely cut this down. It's just way too big. Well, I guess that's it for now. I'll make new videos here and there periodically as I ride it this year. I anticipate it's going to be very reliable, but I'll let you know if it is. Thanks a lot for watching.